88 minutes on the clock, 1-1 on the scoreboard. And a 23-year-old goalkeeper, making just his third international appearance, standing between Belgium and a World Cup semi-final. 17 minutes earlier, that same goalkeeper had been sitting on the bench, watching one of the greatest shot stoppers of his generation guard the Belgian net. Then everything changed, and when the ball squirmed loose in the Belgian penalty area with 2 minutes of normal time remaining, an entire golden generation watched its last chance at glory disappear in a single, heartbreaking moment. Spain 2, Belgium 1. But that scoreline doesn't even begin to tell the story. In this video, we break down everything that happened at the Los Angeles Stadium on July 10, 2026. The warm-up injury that ripped up Belgium's team sheet before a ball was even kicked. The moment Spain's fortress finally cracked after 6 games without conceding. The penalty appeal that had an entire nation screaming at their televisions. The referee who accidentally became part of the action. And the cruelest twist of all, a legendary goalkeeper leaving the field in tears, only to watch his young replacement make the mistake that ended Belgium's World Cup. By the end, you'll understand exactly how Spain booked their semi-final showdown with France, and why this defeat might mark the true final end of the most talented generation of footballers Belgium has ever produced. But to understand what happened in Los Angeles, you first need to understand how these two teams arrived at this quarter-final. Because their journeys could not have been more different. Spain came into this tournament as European champions and one of the favorites to lift the trophy. But their World Cup started with a whimper, not a bang. A goalless draw against Cabo Verde in their opening match raised eyebrows across the football world. The team that had dazzled Europe suddenly looked flat, predictable, and strangely toothless. Then the machine woke up. Luis de la Fuente's side won 4 consecutive matches after that opening stumble, scoring 9 goals and conceding none. In the round of 32, they swept aside Austria 3-0 in one of the most dominant performances of the entire knockout stage. And in the round of 16, they won the Iberian Derby against Portugal, a tense, suffocating 1-0 victory sealed by a stoppage-time winner from substitute Mikel Merino. That goal sent Cristiano Ronaldo out of his final World Cup. Remember Merino's name? It's going to come up again. Heading into the quarter-final, Spain had not conceded a single goal in the entire tournament. 6 matches. 0 goals against. A back four of Pedro Porro, Pau Cubarsí, Aymeric Laporte, and Marc Cucurella that had figured out how to defend transitions while the rest of the team monopolized the ball. With Lamine Yamal pulling the strings out wide and Rodri anchoring the midfield, Spain looked like a team built to win the whole thing. De la Fuente himself refused to buy into any complacency. In his press conference the day before the match, he warned that Belgium would be the hardest opponent Spain had faced to that point, describing them as a powerful team full of players accustomed to winning. It sounded like standard coaching diplomacy at the time. By full-time, it sounded like prophecy. Belgium's road was far stranger and far more dramatic. Written off after their group stage exit in Qatar 4 years earlier, the Red Devils arrived in North America as an afterthought. The golden generation was supposedly finished. Eden Hazard, gone. Vincent Kompany, gone. What remained was a strange hybrid of aging legends and hungry newcomers, held together by a coach, Rudi Garcia, whose contract was set to expire at the end of the tournament. And yet somehow, it worked. Belgium won their group, hammering New Zealand 5-1 along the way. Then, in the round of 32, they produced one of the greatest comebacks in World Cup history. 2 goals down against Senegal, seemingly dead and buried, they roared back to win 3-2 with captain Youri Tielemans scoring both the equalizer and the winner. In the round of 16, they walked into Seattle and dismantled the host nation, beating the United States 4-1 behind a brilliant double from Charles de Ketelaere. That win over the Americans came with its own controversy. Garcia had made the stunning decision to leave Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, and all-time record scorer Romelu Lukaku on the bench. He started Folarin Balogun amid intense debate, and his gamble paid off spectacularly. But it also came at a cost. Midfielder Amadou Onana tore knee ligaments in that match, ending his tournament and leaving a gaping hole in the Belgian engine room. By the time the quarterfinal arrived, Belgium were unbeaten in 18 matches. A team that was supposed to be in decline had rediscovered its identity. The question was whether the old guard had one more miracle left in them. They would need it, because before the match even kicked off, disaster struck. When the official team sheets were released, Youri Tielemans was named in Belgium's starting 11. The captain, the heartbeat of the side, the man who had scored twice in that legendary comeback against Senegal and who had played virtually every meaningful minute of Belgium's tournament. His only rest all campaign had been the final 6 minutes of the New Zealand match. Then, during the warm-up, something went wrong. Tielemans picked up an injury before kickoff, and by the time the players walked out at SoFi Stadium, Hans van Aken was in his place. No captain, no midfield general, no time to adjust the game plan. Belgium's staff had spent days preparing for the most important match of their generation, and their entire structure changed in the space of a warm-up. Think about what that does to a dressing room. You've already lost Onana to a serious knee injury. Now, minutes before facing the European champions, your captain limps out of the warm-up. Some teams would have folded right there. Belgium did not fold. In fact, for large stretches of the first half, they were the braver team. Garcia rolled the dice again with his selection. Kevin De Bruyne rested against the United States after being substituted in each of Belgium's first 4 matches, returned to the starting lineup for what everyone understood might be the biggest match of his international career. Jeremy Doku came back into the side as well. Nicolas Raskin, the Rangers midfielder, was handed the unenviable task of replacing Onana. And once again, Romelu Lukaku, the man who had changed 4 different games off the bench at this tournament, started among the substitutes. That Lukaku decision deserves its own conversation, because it had become one of the defining debates of Belgium's World Cup. 4 times Lukaku had come off the bench. 4 times he had produced a game-changing moment. Against Egypt, his introduction forced the equalizing own goal. Against New Zealand, he scored shortly after coming on. Against Senegal, his goal sparked the comeback. Against the United States, his sublime strike capped the rout. His scoring at this tournament had lifted him into the company of the greatest World Cup goal scorers the game has ever seen. And yet, with a semi-final on the line, Belgium's record scorer once again started the match watching from the sideline. Was Garcia a genius for managing the workload of his aging stars? Or was he tempting fate one time too many? The next 2 hours would provide a brutal answer. The match itself began with a surprise. It was Belgium, not Spain, who started brighter. Maxime de Cuypers and De Bruyne both went close in the early stages, and for a brief window, it looked like the Red Devils might do to Spain what they had done to the United States. But quality is patient, and Spain's quality began to assert itself. The European champions took control of possession, exactly as everyone expected, and began carving out chances. Lamine Yamal, the teenage sensation turned tournament superstar, tested Thibaut Courtois repeatedly. Mikel Oyarzabal forced saves. The pressure built and built, and English referee Michael Oliver, taking charge of a record-extending World Cup appearance for an official from his country, had his hands full keeping the temperature down. The first flashpoint arrived early in Oliver's book. Pau Cubarsí became the first name cautioned after grabbing Kevin De Bruyne and very nearly tearing the shorts off the Belgian playmaker as he fell to the ground. It was a clear tactical foul, a young defender stopping a dangerous attack by any means necessary, and it set the tone for a physical, niggly contest. Axel Witsel would later catch Rodri with a late lunge that earned the Belgian veteran a booking of his own, and Aymeric Laporte dragged down Jeremy Doku on a counter-attack in another card-worthy challenge. This was not a friendly. On the half-hour mark, Spain's pressure finally told. Dani Olmo let fly, and Courtois, who had been outstanding to that point, could only palm the shot into a dangerous area. Fabian Ruiz reacted first, tucking away the rebound from close range. 1-0 Spain, the fortress intact, the script going exactly as expected. Except, Belgium hadn't read the script. 11 minutes later, the Red Devils produced the moment nobody saw coming. A cross into the Spanish box found Charles de Ketelaere, the Atalanta forward, whose false nine performances had quietly become one of the stories of the tournament. De Ketelaere rose and nodded the ball home. One apiece. Stop and appreciate what that goal meant. Spain had played 6 matches at this World Cup without conceding. Not a penalty, not a deflection, not a scrappy set piece. Nothing. And here was Belgium, missing their captain, missing their midfield anchor, becoming the first team on the planet to breach the Spanish defense at this tournament. The travel-heavy Belgian support inside SoFi Stadium erupted. On the halftime whistle, it was Belgium, somehow, who walked off the happier team. The second half is where this match descended into chaos, controversy, and ultimately heartbreak. And it started with the officials. Spain came out swinging. Yamal was released one-on-one with Courtois and was denied by the big goalkeeper spreading himself, though the offside flag would have chalked it off anyway. The chances kept coming, and with them came the first major controversy of the afternoon. The ball struck the arm of a Belgian defender inside the penalty area, and Spanish players surrounded Michael Oliver demanding a spot kick. Oliver waved play on. The video assistant referee checked the incident and agreed with the on-field call. The hand was in a natural position. The shot had come from close range, and the arm had not made the body unnaturally bigger. By the letter of the law, it was the correct decision. But try telling that to the Spanish bench, who were incandescent in the moment. Then it was Belgium's turn to feel aggrieved. Laporte rose to meet a header inside his own box, and the ball flicked into the body of Rodri. Belgian players immediately appealed, claiming the ball had struck the Spanish midfielder's arm. Oliver was unmoved. No penalty, no lengthy review. Belgium's players and supporters were furious, convinced they had been denied the chance to take the lead from the spot. Replays suggested the ball had struck mostly body, but the incident became an instant talking point. Another entry in the endless debate about handball interpretation that has followed this tournament from day one. And Oliver's eventful afternoon wasn't finished. In one of the stranger moments of the entire World Cup, Dani Olmo collided with the referee himself, both men losing their balance in a tangle that had commentators laughing and Spanish fans holding their breath. There was also a moment of genuine confusion when Oliver awarded a foul against Belgium inside their attacking sequence that even neutral observers struggled to identify, a phantom whistle that broke up a promising move and added fuel to the growing Belgian sense of injustice. Add in the brutal Los Angeles heat, which forced hydration breaks in both halves, and you had a match being played on a knife's edge, in sweltering conditions, with every decision scrutinized by 2 of the most demanding fan bases in world football. But all of it, every card, every appeal, every controversy, was about to be overshadowed by a moment of pure sporting tragedy. Midway through the second half, Thibaut Courtois went down. The Real Madrid goalkeeper had just made another save, another routine piece of brilliance from a man playing in his 21st World Cup match, the second most in tournament history for a goalkeeper behind only Manuel Neuer. But as he went down, something gave way in his leg. He sat on the turf, gripping his thigh, and the Belgian medical staff rushed on. Courtois received treatment during the hydration break. He came back out with his teammates, and for a moment it seemed like he might battle through. Then, almost immediately, he signaled to the bench. He couldn't continue. In the 71st minute, with the score locked at 1 apiece and a World Cup semi-final hanging in the balance, Thibaut Courtois walked off the pitch, and he did not hide his emotions. Cameras caught the 34-year-old in tears as he made his way to the sideline, where Rudy Garcia embraced him. 115 caps, 4 World Cups, widely regarded as the finest goalkeeper of his era. And every single person watching understood what those tears meant. This was very possibly the last time Thibaut Courtois would ever wear the Belgian shirt at a World Cup. He had made 4 saves on the day and been arguably Belgium's best player. He had kept his team alive against wave after wave of Spanish pressure. Across Belgium's first 5 matches at this tournament, he had made 10 saves while conceding only 5 goals, the last line of defense for a team rebuilding itself in real time. And now, at the worst possible moment, his body had betrayed him. Even the royal box felt the weight of the moment. King Philippe of Belgium was in attendance at SoFi Stadium, waving to the traveling supporters before kickoff, there to witness what everyone hoped would be a historic afternoon for the nation. Instead, he watched the country's greatest ever goalkeeper limp into an uncertain future. Onto the field came Senne Lammens, 23 years old, the Manchester United goalkeeper, making only his 3rd appearance for his country and his first minutes of the entire World Cup. In fact, Lammens became the first goalkeeper other than Courtois to play for Belgium at a World Cup since Geert de Vlieger faced Brazil all the way back in 2002. Nearly a quarter of a century of Belgian World Cup football had flowed through the gloves of one man. Now, a kid with 2 caps was being asked to protect a quarter-final draw against the European champions. To be fair to Lammens, he had enjoyed an excellent season at Manchester United, and nobody in the Belgian camp doubted his talent. But there is no substitute for big match experience. And Spain, sensing blood, turned up the pressure. De La Fuente emptied his bench. Pedri came on. Ferran Torres came on. Nico Williams, who had missed much of the tournament through injury, was thrown into the fray with fresh legs against a tiring Belgian defense wilting in the heat. And with 2 minutes of a normal time remaining, De La Fuente made one final change. Off came a midfielder. On came Mikel Merino. You remember Merino, the man whose stoppage time goal had beaten Portugal in the previous round. The super sub who had already broken one nation's heart at this World Cup. He needed exactly 1 minute and 57 seconds to break another. In the 88th minute, the ball found its way to Pau Cubarsí, who drove a low shot toward the Belgian goal. It was the kind of strike Courtois had been swallowing up all afternoon. Firm, but savable. The kind of shot a goalkeeper deals with 1,000 times in training. Lammens got down to it, but he couldn't hold it. The ball spilled from his grasp and squirted out into the most dangerous area on the entire pitch. And arriving at full speed, completely unmarked, was Mikel Merino. The substitute turned the rebound home from close range, wheeled away toward the corner flag, and sent the Spanish supporters inside SoFi Stadium into delirium. 2-1, Spain. Less than 2 minutes after stepping onto the field, Merino had scored the goal that ended Belgium's World Cup. And on the Belgian bench, Thibaut Courtois had to sit and watch it all. Watch the shot he almost certainly would have held. Watch his young replacement make the kind of error that only experience prevents. Watch 2 decades of Belgian dreams die on a spilled rebound. Football can be unbearably cruel. This was one of those days. Belgium threw everything forward in the closing stages. Lukaku, who had come on along with Witsel in a triple change, battled for every ball. De Bruyne, before eventually being withdrawn as Belgium used their final substitution, tried to conjure one last moment of magic from a career full of them. The Red Devils pushed Spain all the way to the final whistle, hunting the equalizer that would force extra time. It never came. Spain held out for 10 agonizing minutes plus stoppage time, defending their box with the same discipline that had carried them through the entire tournament. Every clearance was greeted like a goal by the Spanish supporters. Every Belgian cross was swallowed up by Cubarsí and Laporte, 2 men determined to atone for the concession that had briefly threatened their perfect record. When Michael Oliver blew the final whistle, the Spanish players collapsed into each other's arms. The Belgians collapsed to the turf. 2-1. Spain into the semi-finals. Belgium going home. The numbers afterward told a story of a match Spain thoroughly deserved to win. The European champions generated over 2 expected goals worth of chances. Belgium mustered barely a third of one. For all their courage, all their resilience, all their refusal to die, The Red Devils had been comprehensively outplayed by a better team. But numbers don't capture what makes this defeat so painful for Belgian football. Because it wasn't just a quarter-final exit, it was quite likely the end of an era. Consider what walks out the door now. Courtois is 34, and those tears on the sideline suggested a man who knew he'd played his final World Cup match. Kevin De Bruyne is 35, and this tournament already saw his role reduced. The great orchestrator managed carefully through matches he once would have dominated from start to finish. Romelu Lukaku is 33. His 3 goals at this World Cup cementing his place among the great tournament scorers, but his days as an every-minute starter clearly behind him. Axel Witsel is 37 and spent most of this tournament as a late-game closer. This was the Golden Generation's last dance. The group that reached the quarter-finals in 2014, the semi-finals in 2018, that spent years ranked as the best team on the planet without ever winning the prize to prove it. They were written off after the disaster in Qatar, and to their eternal credit, they refused to go quietly. They fought back from the dead against Senegal. They embarrassed the host nation on American soil. They pushed the European champions to the 88th minute of a World Cup quarter-final with their captain injured in the warm-up and their legendary goalkeeper carried off in tears. But the ending never changes for this group. Close. Agonizingly, unbearably close. And never over the line. Attention in Belgium now turns to the future, and the questions are enormous. Rudi Garcia's contract expires at the end of this tournament, and despite guiding a supposedly finished team within touching distance of a semi-final, his position is far from guaranteed. The Federation must decide whether the man who managed this transition deserves to finish the job, or whether a full rebuild requires a fresh voice. There are genuine reasons for optimism. De Ketelaere announced himself as a star at this tournament. Leandro Trossard created more chances than any player at the World Cup. Lamens, despite his nightmare moment, remains one of the most promising young goalkeepers in Europe. And painful as it sounds, nights like this one are how young keepers are forged. Belgian football is not dying, but it is transforming, and transformations are never painless. For Spain, the road ahead is as glamorous as it gets. A semi-final against France in Texas, the world's #1 ranked team against the world's #2, the back-to-back finalists against the European champions. Many observers filled out their tournament brackets predicting exactly this matchup, and plenty consider it the true final, with the winner installed as overwhelming favorite to lift the trophy. And yet Spain head to that showdown with genuine questions. For all their control against Belgium, the final ball repeatedly let them down. Yamal had countless sights of goal and couldn't find the net. The build-up play sparkled, but inside the box, Spain too often settled for flicks and clever touches when directness was required. Against Belgium, that profligacy nearly cost them. Against France, it almost certainly will. There's also the uncomfortable pattern developing in Spain's knockout victories. Against Portugal, they needed a stoppage time winner from Merino. Against Belgium, they needed an 88th-minute winner from Merino, gifted by a backup goalkeeper's error. Champions find ways to win, and Spain keep finding them. But leaning on late goals and opposition mistakes is a dangerous habit when the next opponent is the most talented squad in world football. Then again, maybe that's exactly what makes this Spanish team so frightening. They haven't hit top gear since the group stage, and they're still in the Final Four, having conceded exactly 1 goal in 7 matches. Their defense has been historically good. Their bench keeps producing match winners. And in Merino, they've found a talisman whose entire World Cup consists of appearing from nowhere to shatter opposing hearts. 2 knockout rounds, 2 decisive goals. If he does it a 3rd time against France, they'll be writing songs about him in Madrid for the next 50 years. So that's the story of Spain versus Belgium. A match decided by the finest of margins and the cruelest of circumstances. A warm-up injury that robbed Belgium of their captain before kickoff. A first half in which the underdogs cracked a defense nobody else could touch. A second half packed with penalty appeals, phantom fouls, and a referee colliding with a player in a moment of pure slapstick. A legendary goalkeeper leaving the biggest match of his life in tears. And a 23-year-old replacement whose single mistake handed Spain a place in the semifinals. Belgium's golden generation deserved a better ending. They didn't get one, because football doesn't hand out endings based on what anyone deserves. It hands them out in spilled rebounds and 88th-minute daggers, in warm-up injuries and thigh muscles that give way at the worst possible moment. Spain march on to face France. 2 wins from a second World Cup crown, 16 years after their first. Belgium go home to bury an era and begin again. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Mikel Merino is probably still smiling. Like and subscribe for more World Cup analysis, match breakdowns, and football documentaries. Spain versus France is coming on Tuesday, and you will not want to miss what we have planned for it. Until next time.